as I was crafting this episode and putting it together, I really had to sit there and ask myself, what does it mean to be authentic? What is authenticity? And I feel like it's a big buzzword right now, and you'll see it everywhere, especially in the human design space, people talking about like help you live an authentic life. And I remember at some point when I was putting my website together, I had a little blurb about helping you live authentically or something along those lines. And I remember removing it because I had a moment where I thought to myself, what does that say to people? Is that something that lands? Is that practical? Because I know that there's a lot of buzzwords in the spirituality space, especially like magnetism and attraction and authenticity and conditioning and just all of these words that I think sometimes can be fluffy, and they don't always tell us exactly how something is going to help us achieve ultimately a happier or better life. Welcome to the Design of You podcast. My name is Leah. I'm a human design expert, spirituality coach, wellness guru, and manifestation powerhouse. My podcast is here to educate, inspire, and uplevel your life. I love sharing with you the ins and outs of the human design system in a practical, empowering, and embodied way. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the show. Welcome to another episode of The Design of You. We are back with another video podcast, or you can listen, via audio as normal. So I'm going to tell you guys the story of how we got Rupert, but before I do so, I wanted to share what this episode is going to be about, which you can probably see from the title. We're going to be talking about authenticity and what it means to live an authentic life. And we're going to talk about how human design actually helps us to live an authentic life. That is what this episode is going to be about, but I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Rupert and then we'll dive into this episode. We actually today have a special guest who is my brand new family member. His name is Rupert. He is my baby puppy. So if you're watching this on video, this is Rupert. He's already licking the mic, so he's ready to talk to you guys. He is my teeny little bopper of a son, and he is just the cutest thing. So he's going to be here for this episode. He's 9 weeks old. Thank you. He's 9 weeks old, so he is actively teething and chewing everything and being a little daredevil. He's also all play, and then he goes all sleep. So it's one or the other, and I think he's due for a little nap. Luckily, it took me a little bit to set up all of this video equipment, so he had a chance to really play and get maybe some of his energy out. He is just biting my fingers and everything, but he is the cutest little 2.8 pounds. We took him to the vet on Monday. 2.8 pounds. And this is his little face. Are you just the cutest thing? And he's currently reverse sneezing because every time he drinks water, he basically jumps into the water bowl. So we've been working on having him drink from a plate, but I'm just excited to be here. So if you hear little squeaks and if you just hear any little weird noises today in the background, that is just my teeny bopper of a new baby named Rupert. And I will say, because I know some of you guys are going to ask, how's Gus, who's my other dog, which I feel like I've talked a lot about him on the podcast. Gus is doing okay with Rupert. He's not a fan of him. He's just over the fact that he gets a lot of attention and that Rupert is playing with all of Gus's toys, and he's just not a fan of all of the things that come with sharing, So Gus has been our only child for so many years, and Gus is over Rupert being in his space and playing with his toys and all the things. So, but overall, they're still getting along, and it's been really great. He's been a dream of a puppy. This is the third puppy I've raised. My first dog, which I would love to do an episode. Let me know if you guys would like to hear this. I had a dog named Cleo, and she is just my angel. She passed away suddenly in 2019, and I only had her for 14 months, and it was a pretty, it's a big life event for me. And I know it's silly because, some people I think are animal people and don't get it, but it really was a big life event for me. And Cleo meant the world, and then I got Gus, and I think it's a pretty sad story, but also a really neat story of how it all came together. So let me know if you guys would ever want to listen to an episode on that. I will at some point. I would love to do an episode on animal charts, because something that you guys don't or maybe you do know, is that you can actually pull the chart of animals. So dogs and cats and horses and birds and rabbits, but you have to have that exact birth time. So it can be a little challenging for sure to just do it on the fly because most people don't know the birth time of their little animals. So luckily I do know the birth time of little Rupert. So the story of how I got him was we've wanted another dog, but we really weren't intentionally looking for one or seeking it out because honestly, this timing wasn't really ideal for us. So what happened was we were on a walk the first week in January just around our neighborhood, and my neighbor who has 2 French bulldogs, and if you don't know, my dog Cleo was a French bulldog Boston mix, and then my dog Gus Gus is a Frenchie pug mix. And yeah, we always said we were going to adopt our next one, and we love pit bulls, and we were going to wait till maybe we were a little bit more settled, had a home, just because moving and rent and stuff like that, like to pay a little bit more for dogs and things. So we just were like, we're also busy and traveling and things. So yeah, we just weren't really looking. And so we were on a walk, and my neighbor who has Frenchies, she ran into us and she said her dog had puppies, and she's got 2 really great Frenchie dogs, and our dogs get along. If anyone listening probably knows, your dog will be into other dogs that are the same. So every time we go out and we see a pug or a Frenchie, I feel like Gus is just drawn to them. And so if you have a golden retriever, when you see another golden retriever, your dog probably just goes for it. Maybe they just feel your energy of excitement because I don't know, we all have our own animal preferences, so this is my preference. So basically what happened was he's falling asleep in my lap. It's probably the cutest thing ever. I think the camera's picking it up, so that's adorable. But essentially we weren't really looking, and my neighbor, her Frenchie had these puppies, and if you know anything about Frenchies, they have to be annually inseminated because they're so overbred, and it's pretty sad actually. I didn't know a lot about that whole industry initially, but now I do. And so essentially what happened was her Frenchie she was waiting for it to go into her first heat before getting it fixed, and then ended up getting pregnant by her other Frenchie without her knowing and really trying. And so she had these puppies, and she really wanted to keep them in the neighborhood, and so she knew us, and she knew that we were great dog parents to our baby, and she knows I work from home, and she knows that Xander's home a lot too because he only works 3 days a week. He's a nurse. So she just was like, I just think you guys have the perfect situation. I'd love to send them to a place where there's either young kids or other animals. And so yeah, we've always wanted to get Gus Gus a brother, and it just worked out because honestly, now looking at it, he's almost 4, and so it's like perfect timeline because we wouldn't want to do it probably any later because he's a little grumpy right now. So I can only imagine how much more grumpy he would be if it was a few years from now. So but yeah, so we thought about it. We talked a lot about it. If you have me on my personal Instagram, I literally didn't stop talking about it all month, I feel like. And so yeah, we decided that it was a yes for us. And so now we have baby Rupert, who is just curled up in my lap right now, guys. Look at this teeny baby. I know. He is just the sweetest thing, truly. Can't get over how tiny he is. I feel like the camera doesn't do it justice. Look how tiny he is. You're just so teeny. What are we gonna do with this teeny thing? I'm gonna look back on this video and just adore it. My little tiny little baby. I keep calling him my teeny bopper, my little Rupert. I wanted to name him Disco and then call him Disco Ball, but Z wasn't for it. And honestly, now that we have Rupert and Gus Gus, I feel like it's a very good dynamic duo of a name combination. So that is Rupert, and so that's how we got him. Okay, so enough about my dog and the puppies and all of that. I will save all the love that I have for animals for an episode on animal charts at some point in the future. Let's talk today about living authentically and how human design can lead to an authentic life and living an authentic life. As I was crafting this episode and putting it together, I really had to sit there and ask myself, what does it mean to be authentic? What is authenticity? And I feel like it's a big buzzword right now, and you'll see it everywhere, especially in the human design space, people talking about like, help you live an authentic life. And I remember at some point when I was putting my website together, I had a little blurb about like helping you live authentically or something along those lines. And I remember removing it because I had a moment where I thought to myself, what does that say to people? Is that something that lands? Is that practical? Because I know that there's a lot of buzzwords in the spirituality space, especially like magnetism and attraction and authenticity and conditioning and just all of these words that I think sometimes can be fluffy, and they don't always tell us exactly how something is going to help us achieve ultimately a happier or better life. So that said, I wanted to talk first about what is authenticity and what does it mean to be authentic. So authenticity is really referring to how you can be your genuine, true self, how you can live a life that is so unique and differentiated and personal and true to you without feeling the need to conform to society's expectations or norms. Authenticity is hard to really define practically, and why I think it can oftentimes be this sort of buzzword that is hard to really understand or put really practical language to, is because authenticity is often something that we feel rather than we can really define. So for me, I can tell when someone is an authentic human being when I'm around them and they show up truly as them and they don't feel the need to conform to, again, what society expects of them. They don't feel like they have to be someone that they're not. They feel like they can truly walk a path. And this might even be something so subconscious that they don't even realize they're doing it, but they can walk a path that's so aligned for them, regardless of what their parents or people or society has expected them or placed these expectations on them to do or be. Authenticity is I think the same word is like genuine. Being genuine and authentic go kind of hand in hand together. And again, it's something that you feel when you're with someone. You probably can think of someone that you know in your life that when you're around them, you're just like, wow, they're just so authentically them. And it's really refreshing in the world that we live in, because with social media and all of the languaging that we're consuming constantly, we can oftentimes feel like we have to be someone that we're not, or we have to live a life that someone else is living because they look happier than you look, or we have to dress a certain way, feel a certain way, respond a certain way. And what's really special about human design is that it allows us to walk a path of authenticity by showing us exactly who we are, or helping us return to who we were before we allowed society's expectations to cloud our judgment of ourselves. And I today want to share a few things about how to live a more authentic life and how human design can help you achieve that. So starting with just how to live an authentic life. And again, I spent a lot of time reflecting before this episode, thinking like, what is authenticity, and how do we achieve authenticity? Because you may be listening to this right now and feeling like, man, I don't know if I actually live an authentic life. I don't know that I'm authentically me or true to myself. And you may be feeling a level of shame or guilt when hearing about what authenticity means. And I want you right now, if that's how you're feeling, to remove some of that and really just open your heart to some of these steps and know that it can begin today. It can change right now for living a true life to who you are, starting any moment. And I also think authenticity isn't always such a linear path. And what I mean by that is I feel like I've lived a truly authentic life, and I've definitely had moments where I felt myself not being authentic too. Especially with me being on social media and some of the things that I share or don't share more so, and feeling like, what's authentically me, or what am I actually conditioned by or consuming from someone else that I'm either replicating, or that I am, or am I trying to be like someone else that I'm just quite simply not. And again, it'd be so hard with the day and age of social media, because you can receive a lot of judgment via comments from people on your lifestyle, even if you are living really authentically to who you are. That said, if you're feeling any sort of shame, just know that you can always return back to yourself. And human design is such a great tool that allows us to be able to return back to ourselves and find that authenticity and live that authentic life again. So the first thing that I want to say in terms of how you can start living more authentically is by going on a deep discovery journey with yourself. And it's funny because we as humans, we're always in our vessel, we're in our body, and we're living every single day. So it's like, how am I not me, right? Am I not authentic? Like, this is me and all of my life experiences. But when we talk about conditioning and human design, conditioning is where we have been, filtrated by other people and their energy and their lives, and how that's gotten us away from who we are at our core. And so in human design, we do so much with deconditioning by understanding ourselves at such a deep level. And so the first step to being authentic and living an authentic life is to really become aware of where we do have conditioning and to start removing those areas or places where we have fallen off track and re-find ourselves, rediscover ourselves. And again, human design is such a great tool for this, but there's a lot of tools for this. And there's really no limit to how you can achieve this or get to this place. But going on a deep self-discovery journey is really going to be the first step. That's going to be the first thing that allows you to get really raw and real with who you are and what's happening in your life. So some tools for this, that it's limitless, but therapy is really great. You may just even be talking to a friend and sharing about experiences, which then can allow you maybe to release some things that you potentially could be holding on to. Another great tool is learning your astrology, learning a little bit about who you are and your path and your personality characteristics and things that come with astrology. Journaling, I think, is probably one of the most incredible tools, because when we journal, we can start to allow our minds and the pen hit the paper and just kind of flow through words. And specifically when it comes to journaling, if that's the tool that you do end up using, I also recommend that you allow yourself to just release any pressure for how to journal. And so the first step that I ask you guys again is just to figure out who you are at your core and start journaling a little bit about who that person is or what you're experiencing. And again, it could be a past journaling experiences you've had, or it could be things that are present day to day. And that just helps you kind of just think about what you're moving through. The next is that I want you guys to make a list of the things that feel genuine and authentic in your life right now and the things that don't. And this could be friendships, this could be career, this could be the city you're in, parts of your life. Maybe it's the food you eat, what you consume day to day. Maybe it's your clothes or your furniture. I want you to make a list of every single thing that feels genuine and authentic and everything that doesn't in your life. And there's no limit on how long this list can be, but this is a really great exercise to really just see, exactly like what feels true. The next piece is a piggyback off of that step, which is to go down the list of the things that feel authentic and genuine. And I want you to write down why those things feel authentic and genuine to you and how they make you feel and why that feels so true to you. And there is no right or wrong way to do that either. In terms of what your reasonings are, there's no right reasons or wrong reasons, just what feels authentic and why. And then go on that list of what doesn't feel authentic. And I want you to spend even more time writing down why those things don't feel authentic to you, because I believe that the things that are authentic in our lives and don't feel authentic, that is really a place to dive into your conditioning and can help you in all of these categories in terms of step one, understanding who you are on the deepest level, because then you can figure out what caused these things to enter my life that aren't authentic to me, and why did these things happen, and or these relationships, or why did I spend so much time in this place or with this thing? Why did I purchase this? As I'm talking right now, guys, I'm looking at my office and I'm like, my desk is not authentically me. That's a very material thing, but even again, it can go as deep as that. We oftentimes have clothes or our style or the way we express ourselves. Things can be not as authentic as we want them to be. And I'm like, I got that desk because I like the length of it. I didn't like the style, but it was inexpensive, right? This is a total side note, but I've done a lot of work on health and money healing, and I'd love to do an episode on that at some point. But one of the things that I did learn with wealth is that people who have a lot of money, they live a lot more authentic lives. And so a lot of times people can, and not always, by the way, either, they don't always live authentic lives, but they have the means to do or be exactly what they've been wanting. So in terms of style, if you've ever heard the quote, "I'm not ugly, I'm just poor," because some people will say that when they're looking at these beautiful supermodels who have all this work done to themselves, right? And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like people who have money, they're able to express themselves a little bit more fully because they either have the means to travel to the places that they desire, they have the ability to create the home or potentially a career or life that they truly desire. And so don't let money limit you though. That wasn't the point of me sharing that. That was just to say a little side note on what wealth can do for authenticity. But again, we can live very authentic lives to who we are without having money. And I believe that we actually attract and create more wealth into our lives, or money is moved to us when we actually are living more authentically, because when we show up fully in all of our gifts, that's when a lot of magic happens, truly. That's step 2 and 3 kind of combine. Step 2, make that list. Step 3, go line by line down that list and say why. Step 4 is being honest with yourself. And when I say being honest with yourself, it's like truly getting honest with your feelings and your thoughts and your intentions, and avoid pretending to be someone that you're not. And so be honest, what is me and what's not me? And this is something that I've had to work on a lot in my own life, especially in the spirituality space. I love being in this space, truly. I love it so much and I wouldn't change it for the world. I love spirituality, but there are a lot of expectations on what it means to be spiritual and what it means to live a spiritual life. And a lot of times that is, no drinking, consuming a vegan diet or a raw vegan diet, even more extreme, drinking a lot of green juices and not being able to make mistakes. And even in the spirituality space, it can be such a challenge because in spirituality, or in modern new age spirituality, which you see all over the internet, is you see a lot of people pretending to be, and not even always pretending, people living these lives that you will feel like you have to live, which is like vegan diet or a vegan lifestyle, or someone who doesn't consume alcohol or drugs of any kind, someone who doesn't believe in Western medicine and has to read a slew of specific books. And I'm really speaking to myself here because these are all things that I've at some point explored. And here's the thing too, that this is going to be my next thing that I say, is that I think it's important for you to explore the things that you're drawn to, the things that you maybe envy or jealous of in other people, or maybe you see a lifestyle that you want to live, and you explore or challenge yourself to see if that fits, right? If that puzzle fits into your life, or if you try on those pants and they feel like they fit really good. And so I think it can be hard to be authentic sometimes when, again, we have so much conditioning from just our media and society expectations and what it means to be, a certain person that does a certain thing. Like you may play a certain sport and feel like you have to be a certain person because most people who play that sport act this way, or maybe you are in a certain career and you may feel like, well, I have to be this in my career because people who have, jobs like this in their careers, this is how they are, but that might not be you. So be honest with yourself on, what feels like me? Where am I conforming? And what isn't me? What is me and what isn't me? And how can I remove those things and show up authentically yourself, and feeling like you don't have to conform to anything that anyone else says that you need to be. So my next step is to really look at whose lives you're attracted to and why you're attracted to those people and their lives, and what about their lives you're specifically attracted to. Like I mentioned, do they drink a green juice every day? I drink a green juice every day, and I know a lot of my friends and family members are have asked me about that, and that's amazing. Talk to those people, find out why you're attracted to those things, and then I think experiment with those and figure out if that's something that feels, again, good for you, that you can, kind of wear, and it feels like, wow, this leads me to living a more authentic life. Once you've figured out who you are and what makes you authentic, the next piece is to start to walk that path and set boundaries. Don't let people pull you off your path of authenticity. Don't let people make you feel like you are wrong for living your life or doing certain things or saying no to certain things or yes to certain things. I've been doing 75 hard since the start of the year, and I haven't been drinking on 75 hard. A lot of the people in my life consume alcohol. I've talked a lot about my relationship with alcohol on my podcast, at least I think. Would love to again, will probably again. And so, it's like doing this challenge, people have, and I'm going to do an episode on this challenge too. People have asked me a lot about, my experience with 75 Hard and how hard it is to not drink alcohol. And so you have to set boundaries and say, this is, what I'm doing right now. And this is how I'm living my life. Spoiler alert, I'm probably not going to stop consuming alcohol right now in my life. I will maybe in the future, probably. I don't really drink a lot right now anyway. I think it's also subjective to, who you're around too. One may be like, I drink a lot because I drink a few times a month, but other people might be like, that's nothing compared to, my nightly glass of wine or my weekend bender. You know what I mean? So it's all kind of subjective as well, but set boundaries and be confident if you can. And I think when we're authentic, we can actually start to be a little bit more confident and set those boundaries of who you are and why you're doing certain things and why this is good for you. And you don't even have to explain yourself either. The next thing is to be vulnerable. And this one could be an entire episode. We will do an episode on vulnerability at some point. My personal recommendation, and I'll link this in the show notes, is to look up Brené Brown on Netflix, watch her Netflix TED Talk on vulnerability. Her book, The Call to Courage, is a phenomenal book. Brené Brown is phenomenal, and she does a lot of research on courage and vulnerability. And so I recommend listening to those two things. But being vulnerable is incredibly scary, and it can be really scary because a lot of people have trauma related to vulnerability, because there's probably moments where you've been vulnerable and you were rejected for being exactly who you are. And so it can be a little bit off-putting to live a vulnerable life when you've been rejected for being vulnerable. You see this a lot with social media stars. I go on TikTok, and there's a couple TikTokers that I follow that I really like. And I guess I'm a ghost follower because I don't really ever comment, but I love watching their videos. And I see so many mean comments all the time on their videos. And it breaks my heart because I just think people need to be nicer. I think the nicer you are, the more authentic your life will actually be as well. I think that it takes a lot of bravery to show up in such a big way, especially some of these people have 2 million followers, millions of followers on the internet. And so millions of people are seeing each of their videos, and these strangers who see, 3 minutes of what they're doing are so mean to them. And that makes being vulnerable really challenging. But I actually look at it in the light of, these people are so brave, like sharing their life. I don't know that I could do it the way that they do and how often they do it. And so that takes a lot of courage and vulnerability, and more practical ways of sharing your vulnerability. I'm not asking any of you guys to become social media stars and have millions of people who have their eyes on your life, but I think it's really important to be vulnerable about feelings and what you're moving through and why you're moving through those things. This could be with your friends. Maybe it's your manager at work or your coworkers, or you're just your parents and anyone, your family, friends, it doesn't matter. Just being vulnerable and saying, this is what I'm experiencing and these are my real raw feelings. And instead of having to hide it, I think that, again, vulnerability and authenticity, it's something that you feel. So you can feel the authenticity and the genuineness of how you're feeling about a certain thing. And that takes a lot of courage. And I think that the more that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, even when we feel like we're, trauma dumping or venting or something, like, it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable and share what you're moving through. And then on that note around being vulnerable in relationships is to surround yourself with people who allow you to be you. And this could be another list that you make. If you're getting a theme here, I love lists. Write down, who allows me to be me and who really sees me for me and who allows me to genuinely be the version of myself that I am and that I am at my core. Who is that in your life? That's the question for you. And how can you spend more time with those people, and how can you cultivate more of those relationships? The last step before I get into human design playing a part in this is to practice a lot of self-compassion. I talked about shame and guilt earlier. If you feel like, oh my gosh, there's a few things in my life that just aren't authentic, that's okay. Be compassionate with yourself, because life is a journey and we're not meant to be perfect. We're not meant to know how to do things. We're not meant to come here and, live always this seamless life. We have little challenges and we get bumped this way and bumped that way. And that's the beauty of living, truly. And we live more when we're vulnerable. We live more when we're authentic. And so practice compassion for yourself, especially during those moments of insecurity or self-doubt when you feel like you're too much or too little. Okay, so how does human design play into authenticity? I, again, think human design is the greatest thing on the earth. So I'm always like, human design is the greatest tool for manifestation. Human design is the greatest tool for living an authentic life. Human design is the greatest tool for deconditioning. I think human design's the absolute greatest, point blank. Why I do what I do. I love it so much. But human design plays such a big role in living an authentic life because it helps us naturally remove conditioning that we've picked up. You are carrying right now, all of us, it doesn't matter how much work you've done, you're all carrying some level of conditioning that might not actually be fully true to you and the life that you want to lead. Human design allows you to get into alignment by working with what we call our strategy and authority. We all have our energy type: generators, manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, manifestors. Did I miss one? I think that's all of them. And the 5 types all have a strategy with them. In your strategy, we have a lot of episodes on this. Your strategy is just basically, how do you strategically work with your energy? How can you strategically work with your energy as a projector, manifesting generator, reflector, all the different types, to allow yourself to make really authentic decisions and to reduce this friction and to walk a path of authenticity, if we're being completely honest in what this means. And so your strategy it can be a little bit confusing at first because most of them say, hey, wait for something other than manifestors, which is to inform simply. Your strategy actually works in pair with your authority, which authority is another word for basically intuition. It's the thing inside of you that has the power. It's the thing that guides you towards the right decisions. It's the thing you can, hear a yes or no from inside your body, or some people it's a little bit more outside your body. When we pair these two things together, we start to make a lot more aligned decisions. And then we enter what we call our signature theme in human design, or as I like to call the alignment theme, which says like, you're in alignment, like feeling this a lot. So for me as a generator, it's satisfaction. When I'm feeling satisfied, I know that that is a sign that I am living a life true to me. So that satisfaction is like an indication that, hey, I've been making decisions that are aligned with my energy. Now I might be doing this subconsciously, sometimes more consciously, but it's about, for me, I wait to respond. So I have to not force things to happen, which I'm still learning so much of. And I have to, when something is presented, I have to tune into my gut and listen to my gut feelings. And my gut can tell me instantly whether something is a yes or a no for me. And based on that, I can then, live a life of authenticity, and I can feel satisfaction and really start to naturally decondition. Because when we use this mechanism, we start to remove all of the conditioning of things that, we're just simply not. So that is why human design is so great, because it allows us a practical way to be able to do this. Now, the other reason that human design is so great for living an authentic life is because it shares with you who you are. And so instead of trying to be everything else or anyone else, you can actually be exactly who you are at your core. You can start to see, okay, this is my personality, what we call profile in human design. So for example, I'm a 5/1. So learning that, I was like, oh my gosh, I do love like diving into research and details. And I love coming up with big ideas, and I love offering practical solutions. And so it's really cool because human design allows us to go, okay, that actually is something I've always felt, but now I can lean into it. Then we look at our channels or our gates, which show us some of our gifts. We can look at our incarnation cross, which helps us understand our life path and purpose. And we can look at the centers we have defined consistently, or the ones that we don't have defined. And we can just start to go, I'm not crazy, or I don't have to make myself less than or make myself wrong for not being a certain way or not being something. And I can now step into living a confident and authentic life by stepping into the gifts that I do have consistently and that are a part of me, right? For example, in my chart, I have an undefined throat. I've talked about this in a lot of podcast episodes, but for me, having an undefined throat means that I sometimes need to speak a little bit unfiltered. And there's a lot of things that come with having an undefined throat, but that for me is one of them. It's like not having an agenda. And I literally just said on my episode, which won't be in the episode, but I just like paused and told my podcast manager, Claudia, that the first half of this episode, there's so many parts that she's going to have to like it because I wrote down these notes and I was trying to like follow them to a T, and it just didn't work it doesn't work for my undefined throat. I need to flow. I need to feel like what's coming through to me I can bring voice to that through the energy that I'm picking up in that space. And so I can confidently say that, yeah, sometimes I'm on with my words and sometimes not so much. And sometimes I need to pause and wait and tune back into my strategy, which says, hey, just wait, wait to respond when it feels right. Wait till you get that gut yes. And so that's just one of the ways that you can lean in. The other thing here is I have an undefined emotional center. There's a lot of ways to look at this outside of your undefined centers, but I have an undefined emotional solar plexus. And so instead of me feeling wrong for feeling a lot of other people's emotions and feeling like I carry what sometimes is like empathy for what other people are experiencing, I don't have to make myself wrong all the time for, crying because someone else is crying or feeling like, emotional through what someone else is moving through. I can bring awareness to the fact that this is a part of my mechanics in the blueprint of how my energy works. And I know I now have tools and awareness to move from that and go, hey, this isn't mine. I don't need to carry this, but I can feel it and now I can move on and empty it out. So those are just a couple examples of ways that I have been able to start to live more authentically with my human design. Another example actually that I'll say is my gate one is my conscious sun. I want to do a whole episode dedicated to your conscious sun at some point, but your conscious sun is really the most potent gate in your chart, and it's a huge part of what makes you you. And mine's in gate 1, which is all about creativity. And I've always been a creative person. That's just who I am. I've never understood when someone's like, I'm not creative. I'm like, yes, you are. Oh my gosh. Like, creativity comes in. I woke up the puppy. Okay, now he's back to sleep. Creativity comes in so many different ways. And so now knowing that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's exactly, I've always been that way. But sometimes I felt wrong for being that way because I saw so many other people struggle with creativity and I didn't want to like outshine them or something by being like, well, I'm so creative. You know what I mean? So this is why human design is a powerful tool for authenticity. And the other thing is going back to those steps that I mentioned too. I think doing those congruently with understanding your human design chart is really where you're going to see like huge impact. And if you're doing this and you are like, wow, this is like, you're having so many aha moments, I'd love to hear from you and hear exactly what came up, because I haven't done this practice yet. And so I'm actually going to sit down and practice some of it too. And I'm really excited for that because yeah, even like I said, sitting here, I was like, my desk is not authentic to me. So silly. I actually did know that a little bit ago though, because I have a whole vision for my office, which I've turned half of it into the podcast studio, but I've also been wanting to get this desk I have saved. It's just on my wish list. Do any of you guys have wish lists of like things that you want? This feels like very consumerism-ish, but I have like a list in my phone of there's a certain shelf that I want and I know the price tag on it, and I just kind of keep the link and the price and I keep it in a little list. And then, when something, if I need to celebrate or if I want to treat myself to something, or I want to start working to save up for something, which I also do, I just kind of use it as my little, I don't know, just like place where I'm like, these are things I can always look at to be like, this is what I'm working towards. You know what I mean? So I don't know if any of you guys do that, but that is something that I do. And I do it with clothes too. When I see something cute that someone else is wearing that I'm like, I want a dress like that, or I feel like I need new shoes like that, I have it in a separate list of clothes I want, and I will like find it online and link it, and then I'll put the price, and then I'll just kind of keep it there until I feel like it's like a good time to buy it. The other thing I'll do is like I keep it there and then I revisit and like all of a sudden I don't like it again, or I keep seeing it keeps showing up, then I'll be like, okay. Or if I'm getting dressed and I'm like, only had those white shoes are on mine, I need a new cute little pair of white shoes. And then I'll like kind of get the hint like, okay, this is probably the time to purchase it, because I've had a lot of thoughts of when I would wear this. And anyway, that has nothing to do with this episode. That's just something I do, and that's authentic to me. Being vulnerable, right? Sharing with you guys some stuff that I do in my life. And if you guys are interested in learning human design, as I've mentioned in last episode, and I've been mentioning quite a few times on Instagram, we are starting our second live round of Human Design Mastery at the end of this month. So on March 27th, we are beginning our, again, second live round of our human design training. And this is if you would like to become a human design reader, or if you'd like to incorporate human design into a current business or profession, or if you're just like, I just want to know literally everything about human design to perhaps live a very the most authentic life by getting all the down and deep details, then you have the ability to be able to do so by joining Human Design Mastery. It is such an incredible program. I love all of the students that we've taught so far. There's over 100 people inside of HDM. You can join today and you'll automatically be enrolled inside the live round that again starts on March 27th. So I will link that down below. And if you'd like a special offer for joining Human Design Mastery, you'll definitely want to attend or watch the replay to the free class that I'm hosting on March 12th, which is also linked down below. You'll get signed up to attend and all the things. So that is where you'll be, and that is where that'll be. And I would love to see you there or have you watch the replay. And I would, of course, love to meet you inside of Human Design Mastery for our 15-week program, which I guess to give you guys some insight into the program, it is 15 weeks long. We go from March 27th to the middle of July, or just right before the middle of July. And it is 15 calls, 1 call per week. Each call is about 3 hours. No need to join those calls live either. Replays are always available. And there is a community of tons of amazing women inside of Human Design Mastery that are going to be there answering questions and also just there to talk about human design. And you also get a self-paced course, which we have available right now. So again, if you join, you can start learning human design today. If you join Human Design Mastery, then you'll be able to join the live round too. And you'll be able to join all future live rounds and go with the content in your own time. Some people were asking me recently, how long does it take to go through the self-paced course? I would say it takes, honestly, depending on you, I would probably go through it in a week because I would just geek out, but I think it could be 1 to 3 months, maybe even 6 months, depending on, your life and your workload. Maybe if you have a big full family, if you've got vacations coming up, if you have big projects happening in your life, it might take a little bit longer. But if you're like, schedule's clear, I'm diving into human design every single day, then you're good. That's why the live round's great, because you have 3 hours dedicated per week to absorb the content and then, reference the self-paced stuff when you're done in the future. So that is everything. I am so happy to be back and to be doing video podcasts. If you guys have any feedback, if there's anything you'd like to see, if there is something that you don't like, please send me a note. I would love to hear from you. We are always growing and adjusting, and that's the beauty of also life and being authentic. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can make changes as we go. So love you all, and goodbye from me and this teeny tiny little bopper Rupert, who is dead asleep. He's literally asleep as I'm holding him. So we are going to, we're going to go have some lunch now. So bye-bye. If this episode has energized you, I ask you to share it or to send it to someone where it can make a big difference in their life. And please tag me with your shares, something you learned from this episode or that you loved from it. I'm at The Design of You on Instagram. Also, please DM with questions or feedback or whatever. I love to stay in touch with you. Thank you so much for your support, and consider subscribing to this podcast and leaving me a 5-star review so we can continue to grow together. Thank you, and I love you oh so much. See you soon.